These are warm, humid days in southeastern China. In the city of Nanning, they have embraced the World Gymnastics Championships like it is their Olympics. That's the atmosphere as we begin our coverage of men and women on NBC. Get the gold medals ready.
Oh, unbelievable!
NBC Sports presents the World Gymnastics Championships. Later, the women's all-around. We start things off with the men's team final. I'm Al Troutwig along with Tim Daggett and Nastia Lukin. The American men start things off on the pommel horse, which they did well on in the qualifying. But here in the first rotation, as we recap the first three, they didn't do as well.
Yeah, pommel horse is their traditional nemesis at this point in time. They won the team qualifying in this event, but in the finals, they were not as sharp as crisp. Here's the anchor of the team, Alex Nador. You see the legs just kind of flipping around a little bit there, slight separation. They were good, but not great like they were in the team qualifying round.
And the tough thing here, Tim, is that all three scores count.
Absolutely.
And Jake Dalton, who has been such a veteran and a really great team player for this team, was just great in the qualifying round, and then of course right here on the rings, one of his strongest events.
One of the best stickers in gymnastics. Just a slight hop on that, but really another solid performance.
They went to the vault.
Donnell Wittenberg with just gigantic air, handspring, double front with a half twist. Phenomenal vault. Once again, it was better in qualifying though.
But the Chinese men have been dominant in the team championships for more than a decade now. They have won the gold medal at every World Championships since 2001.
That floor exercise was a big uh-oh.
Yeah, a gigantic uh-oh. That cost them over a point, but they quickly got it back when they moved to rings. Just superhuman strength.
And now we get to the king of kings, Kohei Uchimura of Japan, going for a fifth straight world championship.
I can't even wrap my arms around that he could possibly be that dominant for so long. But he truly is, in my opinion, the greatest that has ever been.
And a little extra flair on the dismount. That is one of the things that sets him apart. So, the standings right now, midway through the competition. Japan in front, followed by Great Britain, who peaked in London. Then China, Russia, and the United States has a serious comeback needed here today in Nanning. We start things off with Japan in front and Ryohei Hikaru.
You know, we talked about Uchimura and how he could win 5 in a row. He would gladly trade his fifth one, in my opinion, for a team championships. They've been defeated by the Chinese. They need to put together 3 strong vaults. And it's a nice vault. You know, this is funny, though. In the qualifying round, Al, he actually did a vault that had a potential score of 4/10 greater than what he just showed there.
We've had so many competitions, haven't we, where the Japanese just hang in there, and then when it comes to the high bar, they just blow everybody away. 14.966, and we'll see how the scoring goes today in this competition.
You know, we were able to watch him all week in China with their training and in the qualifying round, and it is just, he is by far the best in the world on every apparatus, and it's just, he sets himself apart from all of the competitors.
Really difficult vault. This is new for him relatively. He did it a while back and really struggled on it. Wasn't great in podium training, but day one, phenomenal. Oh, another. Just, he's mind-blowing.
You really don't have to watch for a long time to see what sets him apart. Now, Niall Wilson from Great Britain. We have such great memories for what the British gymnasts did in the London Olympics when it was their home game. And to their credit, they've kept it going.
Absolutely. They ended up with the bronze, and, you know, Kristen Thomas, who we'll see a little bit later, got to meet Kate Middleton. It was like a fairy tale for the British, but this boy, he's a youngster. He's just a kid, and in a lot of ways, he might be the cleanest gymnast in the competition. I would say it would be between him and Kohei, and you put yourself in the same category as Kohei on anything, and that means you're special. So calm at these championships, really his first major senior event, and he looks like he's done it 1,000 times before.
Let's go back to Kohei Uchimura, another big number, 15.4. So right now Japan is still in front. He likes it. And when he's happy and satisfied, you know it was good. Niall Wilson, 14.833. That should keep Great Britain in the mix for now. Now across the floor to the parallel bars and Daniel Keatings.
You know, he was an all-around medalist in the Worlds years ago, has dealt with a lot of injuries, was kept off of the 2012 Olympic team, where of course Britain went on to win that team medal. It was devastating for Dan. He has fought his way back, and so far in Nanning he has been delivering. Little bit off right there. You see every time you move your hands, and that was a big deduction right there. Supposed to hold that for at least 1 second. When you get off on P-bars, it can be a very long way to get to the finish line. It's just, things get a lot more difficult. Gotta hand it to Dan though. Struggled in the beginning, but he's got himself back. But once again, 2 hand placements, 2/10 of a deduction. His dismount. Big step forward. That could have been a lot better for Great Britain.
It's all happening in front of a packed house here in Nanning, China. When we come back, we'll see if Team USA can mount a comeback on the parallel bars. This is the 2014 World Gymnastics Championships on NBC. The World Gymnastics Championships are brought to you by AT&T, mobilizing your world. By Secret Clinical Strength Fearlessness, apply daily. And by Kellogg's, from great starts come great things. Nanning, China. 6.5 million people live here, and right now they're thinking their team needs to put some big scores together. Lin Chelpan. Did they come in here, Tim, thinking that they could win this gold medal?
Well, they certainly did. They've won the last, I don't even know how many. It's been a long, long time, and they are the dominant force in men's gymnastics. I think, though, if you ask the men's gymnastics experts around the world, they say Japan. I think they're finally ready to challenge China. Super hard vault, triple twist, and they got 3 of these, and they're all hard, and they all are done very well. Just a little bit of, you'll see some knees in the air here. His legs aren't completely locked and a little bit cross-footed. Step backwards, but that line is in, so there's no deduction.
Big score, 15.366. Can they turn this into a momentum change? Deng Shudi. And you really have to go deep into your history books to describe the rivalry between China and Japan. It is Red Sox, Yankees times 10.
Absolutely. He'll do the same vault. Just got to be a little cleaner, and he is. Little cleaner, but maybe not as crisp of a landing. His body is a little bit bent over when he makes contact with the floor.
Nastia, what happens to you as a gymnast when you feel the emotion of the building rise up like this?
Well, you know, I never got to compete in a World Championships or an Olympic Games in your home country, but I can't imagine the amount of pressure and excitement that they are feeling. And those are the types of scores that they need to get back onto the top of the podium to win another title.
3 scores up, 3 scores count. Here's the last of the trio from China, Cheng Rang.
Once again, it's the same vault. but he's the best vaulter on this team. They're seeded that way. I'll tell you though, 3 gigantic vaults for China, and they were all pretty much within 1/10 of a point of each other. That's going to help them. You'll see some other vaults where there's massive flipping going on. They actually have the same value as these vaults. A 16.0 is the maximum score. There's the highest one for Team China, and well-deserved.
Here they come. Well, Team USA could use a sequence like that, couldn't they?
Absolutely.
Donnell Wittenberg on the parallel bars.
And he has actually not been as crisp so far at these championships as we saw him at the national championships in August and then in the qualifying even here.
And you know, I got to talk to him while we were in China, and he did say because it is his first World Championships, he was going to be a little bit more nervous for this team competition. Oh.
Big break right there. I don't know what they'll value that. And
Tim, I look at a guy as muscular as he is, and you wonder how that happens.
Yeah, you know what? This is a lot to handle, though. To be perfectly honest, as I mentioned, we see Niles from Great Britain, and he is just a kid, and he's somehow able to deal with it like no problem, but it's a big deal. This young man, Donnell, has been working for this type of a moment his entire life, and he's here, and it's a little overwhelming in the team finals for him, I think. Big dismount, big slide back on that landing. That'll be a 3/10 hop. And not a disaster. You see Sam Mikulek right there applauding on.
Well, he's the teammate of teammates.
He is actually, though, I think Sam would have thought he would have been in the lineup on parallel bars. You see, this is the big mistake right there. I don't even know if they're going to give him that element at all.
That's a 14.6633. John Orozco has already gone and gotten a 15.066, so that's a score that's in the wrong direction. Now Donnell Leyva.
And Team USA is going to rely heavily on this exercise right here. Donnell had the highest qualifying score in the preliminaries. He'll compete on the finals. Former world champion on this event, and he has been great in China so far on P-bars. Super difficult. We'll do some underbar swings. That is so difficult, and Donnell makes it just look too darn easy. This is a phenomenal routine. Right here, the dismount. Small hop on the landing. Another tremendous routine at these championships from Donnell Leyva.
He seems energized, and we'll find out if that takes Team USA in an upward direction. When we come back, they will be on the always exciting high bar. These are the World Gymnastics Championships on NBC. Wednesday night is rivalry night on NBCSN. The Bruins and Red Wings re-meet after last year's playoff encounter. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on NBCSN for Wednesday night rivalry, the night you love to hate. So, Japan remains in front here in the men's team final after the 4th rotation. Great Britain after China, and the United States is still way on the outside. Now they have to start thinking about maybe trying to concentrate on a bronze medal finish. Here's John Orozco on the high bar. It was a 15.666 for Donnell Leyva.
Very big number. Scored a 15.9 in qualifying, but that is a solid routine for USA. Right here, biggest release. Beautiful.
And you know, as great as they are on the high bar, we got to speak to head coach Mark Williams, and he said this is the event that I am most nervous for these guys, because you let go of the bar and you ultimately have to catch it again, so it's a big risk.
Another release right here. John's very clean. And that was That was a little bit flat on that element. He should have gone right to a handstand. He could lose as much as a half a point on that. His dismount. And that is what Team USA has need. I think that's the first stick I think I've seen from this team in the final competition. That helps, but he's gonna really want to take back that skill where he got that 5/10 deduction on.
Roscoe score in a moment. Let's see if China can keep on going with what they started on the vault last rotation. Lin Xiaopan.
Well, they are absolutely capable. Their difficulty levels on this event just off the charts. Gorgeous. At this point, you think he's just about done, but he's got a whole lot more to show. Very difficult, beautiful. That's called a Bhavsar, named after American gymnast Raj.
You know, just like the Chinese women are on the uneven bars, they are phenomenal. The men are just spectacular on this event with their form and, like you said, their difficulty, but that was great.
Wow. Off the charts right there, off the charts. Don't know if I've really ever seen a better parallel routine than that. That was amazing.
Roscoe 14.833 after the stuck landing. Danel Leyva watched it. Now it's his turn.
You know, he fell in the qualifying round on his first release skill, but as Dad does his rhythmic clapping, this is one of my favorite exercises in the world of gymnastics. He is as aggressive as you can possibly be on this event. Watch this, he'll throw his arms out to the side a little bit on that. And this is crazy. Look at the height. Oh, beautiful. It's such an all-out exercise. Danel told me, beautiful combination right there. He said after the qualifying round that he was a little disappointed because he missed high bar. Could have been in the finals, because this routine would do very well in the finals.
The Leyvas are never short on emotion.
Beautiful dismount. But this is what has really plagued Team USA, are those landings. But a tremendous routine from Danel Leyva.
We will get his score. Lin Xiaopan, that is just enormous. A 15.9. We don't see too many of those. Meanwhile, the Americans have to absorb Jake Dalton's 14.5. And now let's see if the emotion of the arena continues for Deng Shudi of China.
And he's capable on this event, absolutely. Really, that last P-bar routine, I honestly think that was the best parallel bar routine I've ever seen in my life. Deng is
the
capable.
Judges agreed.
Yeah. Very difficult element right there. Only seen a couple people in the world do that, named after the great Li Xiaopeng from China. Little bit of a hand movement there, but this is a pounding routine, and you see that his elbows bent as he swung up to that handstand. That'll be a deduction as well. Here we go, his Bhavsar, and that was a a very, very big error. Disastrous.
What went wrong?
Well, he just didn't have the amount of rotation that he needed, and he laid on the bars, which is a minimum of a half a point, and in a lot of ways you could tally up a whole point in deductions on that skill alone.
And it looked like he might have hit his feet on the ground possibly as well, which would be even more deduction.
So watch this right here. He's supposed to completely fly through. You see the legs. That was a lot of mess right there.
When you watch it and it doesn't look right, it's usually not. So let's go back to Danel Leyva, 15.1.
It's actually a good score on high bar. It's one of the most strictly judged events at these World Championships thus far.
And the Chinese momentum comes to a screeching halt, 14.791. Can Japan hold on to their lead and take full advantage of that mistake? They're next. The men's team final continues at the 2014 World Gymnastics Championships. Great Britain trying to hang in there in silver position right now. What a fantastic finish that would be for this team. Christian Thomas on the high bar.
Of course, he was one of the 5 that were in London and got that spectacular team bronze. Big release right here, same as we saw from John Orozco, but you see those bent elbows afterwards. I think it's going to be very difficult for Great Britain to maintain their standing at this point. High bar is good, but it's not at the level that some of the other countries are at. Their best event, pommel horse, was their first event, and they kind of relied on that to give them a good shot in the arm. But Gymnastics 101 right there. Nice dismount, good look in the air, and stick the landing.
And they're really fighting for that medal position because just like you said with that stick, it's all of those little tenths that you don't want to lose, especially in a 3-up, 3-count situation.
Japan's in front. This is Yusuke Tanaka. And what a great athletic gymnastics family that is.
Absolutely. Older brother who's been on world teams. A little bit off balance there, but had a sister who was in the Olympics as well. Beautiful look on this event. So extended and then such a big mistake. Oh. 0.5 of a point that should cost him. Nicely done right there. Maybe could have been a little bit longer in that on that one bar. Just has a spectacular line. But that is a very big mistake for Japan. China had opened it up. And Japan kind of retreats a little bit here.
Christian Thomas, 14.9. See where that stands after the end of this 5th rotation. Back to high bar, Niall Wilson.
And Niall has qualified for the event finals.
Well, you know, if you called Central Casting, if you were doing the movie, and you said, do me a favor, send me a guy who looks like he's from Great Britain, Niall Wilson would show up.
Absolutely. Also qualified for the all-around finals, which was a shocker. Knocked out Max Whitlock. Beautiful release skill. But as I said, his best quality is the cleanliness. Perfect toes. Little bit of a hand shift there, though, which will cost him just a bit. You know, you have to be so strong, so powerful to do men's gymnastics at this point. And because of that, sometimes you miss out on a little of the artistry, the elegance, but this young man, he does that to a T. He's great in the air. Small hop on the landing.
That just looked good.
Yeah, no, he's a beautiful, beautiful gymnast with a very big future.
And Yusuke Tanaka gets a 14.866. We'll stick with the Japanese story. Shogo Nonomura.
He's another one of the young athletes in this championships. Also has a beautiful look. He makes it look easy. But let me tell you, it's not.
Just like the Chinese, the Japanese men on the parallel bars, there's just some kind of flair to them that, like you said, Tim, they make it look so easy and elegant.
Power packed though. A giant to a pike double back. Doesn't really need to take that little hand step. It'll be a 1/10 of a point, but that was gorgeous. Absolutely.
So let's get some scores. The impressive Niall Wilson, a 14.833, and he loved it, and that's all that matters. But Great Britain is not headed in the right direction in the standings, as you can see.
And we're just hearing now that there's been an inquiry on Tanaka's parallel bar routine. So what that means is they are saying that the difficulty value, the maximum starting score, was incorrect. It was lower than it should have been.
And so Nonomura gets a huge 15.633. That will keep Japan in front. So they'll feel the power as the World Gymnastics Championships moves to its final rotation after this on NBC. Last rotation for the men. Japan is in first, but there is an inquiry, as we might say, inquiry. They want a little more bang for their buck in the Tanaka performance. Right now they lead by almost 7/10. But look at how tight it is between the United States and Russia. Great Britain just on the outside looking in. So Japan trying to clinch a gold medal. And they'll be on the high bar where they can be, at least history says, spectacular.
Without question. Kato was second in the world in the all-around, but this is how good Japan is. He didn't even make the cut. He was the third best Japanese gymnast in the all-around, so he will not advance to the all-around finals. Instead, it will be Tanaka in his place.
Because of that two per country rule.
Well, they can get big scores because they fly high like that. But whenever you let go of the bar, like right here, things can go bad quickly, but so far very good from Kato. Oh, and that is gigantic. A huge, huge mistake from Tanaka. Kato, excuse me. Wow. He does not continue the momentum over the bar. He'll lose 5/10 for that error.
And leading by just under 7/10 makes that humongous.
Yeah, that was a very, very big and uncharacteristic mistake.
To floor and Great Britain. This is going to come down to a little hop here, a little hop there, maybe an out of bounds here on floor exercise.
And you know, you saw that Russia had moved in front of Great Britain. If I were a betting man, and I am, that won't be a problem for GBR or Team USA, because in the qualifying, Russia was just horrendous on pommel horse. They only hit 1 out of 5 routines And many of the routines had multiple breaks. They're finishing on horse. It really is a battle, no question. For gold and silver with Japan and China, and for the bronze, it is the USA battling with Great Britain right here. USA will go up in the second half of this rotation.
Might even adding a little more pressure for the U.S. team because they will know exactly what they need in order to clinch that bronze medal.
Very clean routine, hard dismount, really risky, but that'll work.
And Yusuke Tanaka, a 15.166. So he did get the 3/10 bump on the inquiry.
Yes, he did. You know, they calculated his difficulty level too low, but that's the real story right there. That score on high bar, that could be haunting for Team Japan. Big release right here, beautifully done. I like the way they mix it up too. They don't do all of their major releases in a row. Oh, that was gorgeous. Same skill we saw his teammate falter on. No problem there. Very clean so far. A good landing, a 1/10 of a point hop, I would say. Some of the angles were not phenomenal. A little bit shy of the handstand, but
every single 10th they will need if they want to beat China.
Daniel Purvis likes it, a 15.1 that keeps Great Britain in the mix. Tanaka, a good 15.266. So now essentially it was like a strikeout for Japan. Now this was a base hit, and now their cleanup hitter comes up and they need him to hit it out of the park.
Well, you wouldn't want anybody else in the world in this position except for him. Watch this first release and watch him grab the bar. Oh. So aggressive. And he needs to be. Another release right here in combination. So difficult. Japan almost had the championships in 2011 when it was on their home soil. But King Kohei faltered, missed the bar on his release. But this is his last team gymnastics in China. And that was tremendous.
And the Chinese men look like they know it.
Some of the most difficult elements being done in the world, that one in combination. He does the crazy stuff, but look at knees, toes, and right there. That was a very big routine for Japan.
Nasty, you said it, the Chinese men look stunned when he stuck that routine, but they will have the final say. He gets Kohei Uchimura a 15.4. Team USA and China up next. From the creator of Happy Endings comes the season's most buzzed about new comedy. Critics say it's impossible to resist. Marry Me premieres Tuesday at 9/8 Central here on NBC. We head to the second half of the final rotation, and things are so close, it says that this could be very, very dramatic. China has a chance. Japan on the high bar had to absorb one low score. So they need, China, 3 very good performances here on high bar, and they start off with Guangxi.
And I'll tell you, it's possible because they have some of the potentially highest scoring routines in the meet on high bar. But really, where Japan shines so well is the execution. That means deductions. They just have a nicer look, in my opinion, far nicer, and they're cleaner. You see him walking around the bar a little bit, and you saw legs come apart right there.
And to me, this just doesn't even compare to the Japanese men we just saw on this event.
You know, by the rule book, it's hard, but no amplitude on the release, and that one, he should get hammered on that. No flight at all.
So you are not loving this?
No, this is a weak exercise, without a doubt. Step on the landing. He didn't come off the bar, but
You know, the weaker gymnast always typically starts first out of the 3, but this just didn't seem like a Chinese gymnast, really.
well, high bar, for many years now, the Chinese have taken an extremely conservative approach. That was conservative and just not good.
So Team USA with a chance to get a medal out of this. Sam McCulloch is next. Donnell Wittenberg got a 15.3. So Team USA is off to a great start here.
They are, and remember, they're not competing at this point against China and Japan. It's really a battle for the bronze with Great Britain. Sam is tremendous on this. A very clean gymnast throughout his program, but really shows it off well on floor. And I tell you, he does that landing every time. It doesn't seem to matter. He always puts it right on his feet, just perfect, like that one as well. Watch this. Called an air flare. Little bit of a problem coming out of it, but a move that gymnastics actually stole from breakdancing. First gymnast I saw compete it was Paul Ham's brother, Morgan. His dismount, it's a triple twist. Great routine. Small hop on the landing, but that is going to do nothing but good for Team USA right there.
Now, did the judges agree with Tim and Nastia? Let's see, with Shudi of China. 14.758.
And the crowd is booing because he actually got more than 2 points off in execution, 2.2 approximately, and I would have gone higher than that.
Now Ling Chaopan.
But you know, because their difficulty score, their potential score is so high, he still ends up getting a pretty darn good score. Release right here. Little bit crooked, you saw that. Every time you slide around on that bar, that was poor. That skill is supposed to finish in a handstand, and it was way too low. Nice combination right there. Well, this is better than Deng Shudi, but there's a lot of places pen can go to paper and deductions can be scrawled.
But Tim, your words are not matching these pictures.
Yeah, you know, it's they just opened themselves up. That's all there is to it. They've got deductions on high bar, which I don't get because they're so great in so many other areas, but
All right, Sam McCulloch, meanwhile, gets a 15.3, and he is digging that in a big way. And that means Jake Dalton can clinch a bronze medal for Team USA if he does better than a 14.701.
And that is so doable for Jake. It's not even funny. A big test right here, though, off the bat. Nicely done. Oh, great landing right there. And I'll tell you what, Jake Dalton has been the man for Team USA thus far at these World Championships.
Oh, that is nice.
Qualified for 2 individual event finals. Floor exercise and vaulting that'll come up later in the week. But this is a fabulous piece of gymnastics, I'll tell you. A rollout skill. Just the mount. He had a small little hop, but Team USA, some redemption. That is a bronze medal for the USA with Jake Dalton. 2012, they won the Olympic qualifying. Disastrous team final, ended up 5th. But right there you see head coach Mark Williams jumping in unison with his athletes. That's at least a bronze medal.
And a stuck landing to put the right finish on it. Meanwhile, Zhang Jianlong of China needs better than, and this is a really big number, a 15.866 to take the gold medal.
And honestly, that, you know, we haven't seen that kind of a number on high bar. And although he's great, former world champion, big release right here, huge. I think his high bar routine has a maximum score of a 17.5. They will deduct from that 17.5 every time he doesn't reach a handstand, slight slide on the bar, like right there. That should be about 0.3 of a point for being short of the handstand. Saw a little bit of legs coming apart. This is a fabulous high bar routine, no question about it. Oh, a small step. Crowd is going wild, but that is too big of a number, in my opinion, to achieve
what he needs to achieve. Well, read the body language. Who looks like they won and who looks like they didn't?
Well, I'm sure China probably thinks it's possible, but...
And there it is, by a 10th. Zhang Jianlong has given China the gold medal. What a comeback.
Oh, golly, that is... I'm sorry, but that score right there, if you look at how the execution was evaluated from gymnasts that happened in the earlier part of this rotation, Uchimura, he gets almost the same execution score. It was a phenomenal high bar routine. He delivered, but it wasn't that good. Right there, Japan, led by that man, Kohei Uchimura. I believe they should have won this competition. That's a shame.
And they look like they feel the same way. And Team USA with a bronze medal that feels like gold. But you really have to understand the history between these two countries to understand some of the emotions, not all, but some of the emotions that are going on between these two teams right now.
You know, and right at the end, it really looked like Japan could have won the title this year. And Tim, like you said, it just seemed like they should have won, but the results showed otherwise.
So Team USA wins the bronze, and in the end, quite comfortably over Great Britain. And after the meet, Team USA had strong emotions.
It's one of those times where it's coming down to the wire. We know what we can do, and to go out and perform it exactly how we did, it's just incredible to show or to see how much our hard work is showing off. It's a little redemption. We still got a couple of years till Rio, and you know we're always searching for that gold. But right now, I'm very happy to get a bronze with this team and excited for what the future has in store for us.
This is really important. This is step number one. You know, still got two more big team years. Basically, next year we'll do real good, and then Rio will be the big one.
So a stunning finish in more ways than one. Up next, the women's all-around. Kyla Ross and Simone Biles hope to star. And now in Nanning, China, the World Championships of Gymnastics, the women's all-around final. What a great run it's been for USA Gymnastics for the last 10 years. Carly Patterson, Nastia Lukin, Gabby Douglas, and now Simone Biles and Kyla Ross looking for individual success. And Nastia, they had fabulous success in the team final. They were dominant.
They really were dominant. And here's Kyla Ross on vault. She showed exactly what she is capable, but Simone Biles right there, she was by far the leader of the team during this night. And, you know, there was nobody close to even catching them during this team final.
Tim, as we've seen under Marta Caroli, the American gymnasts have the finish with the hands. They have the finish with the feet. They are elegant, they're graceful, powerful.
And they don't fall. And that is what is so critical. They have all of the intricate gymnastics components, as you said, Al, but they also don't make mistakes.
So Kyla Ross helped set up Team USA in the team final, and then Simone Biles was able to put the exclamation point on.
You know, and she has just been, ever since last year at the World Championships, winning that all-around title. This year, she just looks even better.
To the floor they went.
And Kyla, the only holdover from the London 2012 Olympics, was tremendous, as was this young lady right here. Michaela Skinner, one of the most powerful athletes in the world. The only problem is the most powerful athlete in the world follows her, Simone Biles. But this was tremendous.
And then Simone Biles.
So this was a phenomenal routine. I remember watching podium training, and she did this element right there, and there was a gasp from the crowd. All the gymnastics experts throughout the world, and they're all like, how is it possible she can be this powerful? She just is.
You could truly hear the oohs and the ahs from the crowd.
It's not just the oohs and ahs from the crowd, it's the oohs and ahs from the second best in the world. And they're just so amazed by her incredible power. Like, you know, see it again right here.
Normally, gymnasts would be doing that pass as their first tumbling pass, and she does it almost at the end of her routine.
And then Nastia, her dismount is just so unique.
You know, it really is. She just, and not only is it unique, because like this pass as well, gymnasts typically do it at the beginning of their routine. And she almost looks like she walks into that tumbling pass. Lands with such ease.
But I'll tell you, that smile, it just sells the whole thing.
It was even a standing ovation from her teammates as the American women came together. And remember the pressure. 3 scores up, 3 scores count. They get through it and win the gold medal. And now it's the women's all-around final. Nastia handicapped the heavy players here.
Well, we have quite a great group this year. Kyla Ross got the silver medal in the all-around competition last year. Larissa Yordaki from Romania has looked phenomenal this week in China and really hoping to get an individual medal today. Of course, Aliya Mustafina, who has been the leader of Russian gymnastics the past few years. And the defending world all-around champion, Simone Biles, is looking to get a second gold medal.
It is the women's all-around at the World Gymnastics Championships next on NBC. Our coverage of the 2014 World Gymnastics Championships from Nanning, China continues here on NBC. And now it's the very glamorous women's all-around. This really is it, Nastia, right? This is the really big headline showdown that you think about when you're a young girl and you think about possibly getting to a point like this in your career.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Simone Biles was able to do that last year at the World Championships. And nobody has won back-to-back World Championship all-around titles since Svetlana Korkina in 2001, 2003. There was no all-around championships in 2002. So Simone is looking to do that.
And Korkina, Tim, had to be an inspiration for Mustafina and Yordaki at the young age that they were at when she was so great.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's actually been here in Nanning, China. She is a member of the political party in Russia. Here is Yao Jinan from China. So far, the women from China have been a little bit disappointing.
Now, Nastia, final warm-ups. So what happens when you're in final warm-ups and you have a bad landing like that?
You know, final warm-ups it could be good or bad. You know, some people like to carry it over to their competition, however they do, but it's best to turn the page and really just get your body moving because, you know, they haven't vaulted in a few hours since they did the general warm-up.
So, Larissa Yordaki of Romania. And when you're a gymnast from Romania, it's like being on the Yankees.
Yeah, but she is trying to get a little redemption for that Romanian team who struggled tremendously here in Nanning, China. A great vault, beautiful double twisting, laid out Yurchenko. I'll tell you, she really carried that team. Disappointing fourth place, but in a lot of ways they were lucky to stay in that position, just one shy of winning the medal, but it is a very big rebuilding time for Romania at this point.
Nice score, 15.066. We'll see what kind of a mood the judges are in today. It's Team USA, Simone Biles and Kyla Ross, Jenny Liang, the coach. And here is Aliyah Mustafina, who came home from the London Olympics with 4 medals.
And like Yordaki, Mustafina basically carried the Russian effort to a bronze medal. Same vault. Nicely done, a little bit form in the air, but you see those ankles are both heavily taped. Head coach Rodionenko of Russia said her ankle, will it ever get better? No, it's a permanent injury. You see a little sloppy though, but what she does well, look at the posture when she's landing. She's very upright and just the smallest hop.
Nastia, who wins, you or Aliyah in a stare down?
I think it would be a pretty epic battle. And Tim, as you said, their head coach now has changed. Alexander Alexandrov has actually moved to Brazil to be the head coach there. So a little bit of a process of kind of trying to fit the team back together for them.
Well, here's the it girl in American gymnastics right now, Simone Biles.
And she really is the it girl. She could leave China with 5 gold medals. Huge vault. And it has just been consistent and identical every single day that she has competed.
What makes it huge?
Everything about that vault is just spectacular. I don't think anybody, definitely nobody in the women's side, performs it like she does.
Well, Michaela Maroney, she and Michaela really get air that I don't think anybody else does. Remember in 2012 we put a split screen and we showed Kohei Uchimura and Michaela doing it. Michaela actually rose higher than Kohei, and that is very similar to what Michaela can do. It's spectacular. And a great start.
Huge. 15.866. And Simone Biles says, chase that, everybody.
And that's very much expected from Simone. You'll see a challenge later on when she goes to the uneven bars and balance beam where anything can happen.
Vanessa Ferrari from Italy is actually the world all-around champion from 2006 and has really looked great here in China this week. You know, it's not often you can stay on top for that many years, but she really has, in my opinion, has looked better this year than she even did last year.
I would agree. This is an upgraded vault for her. Actually, she did this years ago when she won that world all-around title. way back in 2006, as you said. I think you were competing back then, Nastia.
I sure was.
14.866, so just about a full point less than Simone Biles. Now Kyla Ross.
You know, and Kyla has a little bit of a lower difficulty than Simone does on this event, but what she does so great is her execution here. Is very clean, has great height and rotation.
Very nicely done. You see she is bandaged on her left hip and groin area. She told me after the first day of competition that tape is all that's holding her together, Nastia.
Oh no, not again.
Sounds familiar.
And it's familiar because at one point when Nastia was trying to come back from injuries, she looked a little like this with a lot of tape. And one of us, I think it was me, said something that she remembers to this day. But it was what she overcome, and it's what Kyla's trying to overcome. 15.166. That kinesiology tape, that's pretty new. Did you get a chance to use that stuff? Does it work?
You know, towards the end of my career, I think it definitely worked for me. I think people are a little iffy about it.
And now Yao Jinan of China. What a huge win for the Chinese men.
And, you know, China came away with the silver medal, but they were not good in the team competition. Lots of falls. What it came down to is the rest of the world at this point is not all that great. They were there to capitalize and get that silver medal, but they'd like a lot more. It was a good job, and I'll tell you, her legs have just not looked right this entire time in Nanning. She was at the Asian Games just a couple of weeks ago, and looking at video, she looked so much more powerful and just a little bit more together. Everything has looked hard and labored for her with vaulting and floor exercise.
Yeah, and these two competitions were pretty much back-to-back for these athletes, so you know, she's probably a little exhausted at this point.
A step out of bounds didn't help either, and she gets a 14.533. So after one rotation, it's Simone Biles' world, and we're just living in it. On to the second rotation after this. The 2014 World Championships are looking a lot like the 2013 World Championships when it was Simone Biles and Kyla Ross of the United States. Uneven bars now in rotation 2. And Nastia, we're going to see two of the major players, Aliyah Mustafina of Russia and Simone Biles. How do you handicap things now going into this?
Well, you know, Aliyah Mustafina just really hasn't seemed to be at her best, especially on this event. She has a little bit lower difficulty than she has in the past, but just like in true Russian typical form, she has had such great execution.
But yeah, she's done easier routines than she's capable of. I don't know what we're going to see here, but not just easier, quite a bit easier. Has a great look and is light on the uneven bars. Kind of flies from one bar to the next. Right here, big combination. Actually, that's where she's capable of doing something a little bit more. Gorgeous landing.
But you're saying this is a little watered down?
You know it is. She didn't do a few of the connections that she has in the past, which, you know, of course would bring her difficulty level pretty far down. But she was clean, and that is what she is great at.
But handicapping this event, if you compare Simone Biles to Aliyah on the uneven bars, Aliyah is almost as dominant as Simone is on vaulting over her on the uneven bars.
So this then is going to be Simone Biles' weakest apparatus.
It's unquestionably her weakest apparatus. She struggled and had almost a major fall in the qualifying round, did not compete uneven bars in the team finals. She once told me that she was so looking forward to becoming elite because at that point she could stop doing bars altogether like Alicia Sacramone.
And then she became the world all-around champion.
Very tricky combination right there. Already through the part that gave her problems in qualifying.
Well, you know, that was a really great routine from her, but like we saw from Mustafina, not as much difficulty Simone does in her routine. But I think she really just wanted to get through that routine and move on to the next two events.
But there were no obvious mistakes, were there?
No, she does have some little form, and some of the handstand positions aren't great, but as Nastia says, just get through it. She's got beam, and she is the best in the world on her last event, floor exercise.
14.533. She is still the leader. More coverage of the World Gymnastics Championships after this. Saturday, November 1st, horse racing's Hollywood ending is on NBC as the world's fastest thoroughbreds compete in the richest event in horse racing, the Breeders' Cup. Coverage begins on NBCSN, and it all leads up to the Classic in prime time. Saturday, November 1st on NBC. Can Kyla Ross and Simone Biles go back-to-back again in the World Gymnastics Championship women's all-around? Well, of course, Kyla might tell you she wouldn't mind the top spot by herself.
Absolutely.
And she is just beautiful on this event. She is a little bit taller than some of the other girls, so she has a beautiful line. Had a little bit of a growth spurt after the 2012 Olympics. She said it actually helped her get a better technique, become more graceful. She truly is graceful to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, it could happen. She is one of the toughest competitors, unfazed by anything. And that's the most important thing. You got to hit 4 routines. Small hop on the landing, but a very good job there from Kyla Ross.
This element called a Shaposhnikova with a half turn. You see a little bit of a feet separation there.
Another release right here. Very nicely done.
Double layout. You see that form that we've been talking about, and beautiful toes, knees, extension. And that's what she's really known for.
She gets a 14.7 on the uneven bars. Nastia, if you had to pick a word for the Chinese gymnasts here on the women's side, would you say disappointing is the right word?
You know, so far they have been disappointing. Watching them in training and all week long, they are so great, especially on this event, the uneven bars. But when they need to perform, they have just not been able to be consistent.
And she fell in the team finals, as did her teammate Chun Song. And really, when I came in and watched the Chinese women on bars, I thought that they were the most impressive team in the world by far on that event. Almost as dominant as the USA was on vaulting. Right here, big release, and does it well. Look at how the cables are swinging back and forth. The Chinese keep the bars so loose.
Which I'm not really sure
I don't know
how
either.
that's to their advantage, but they seem to be able to do very well with that.
Well, that was fabulous.
And they could have used that in the team final.
Yao Jinan gets them to their feet here in Nanning, China. But as all the women move to rotation 3, Kyla Ross has been nudged to 3rd by Mustafina, and it's still Biles in front. Always love the ending that looks like that.
Wow.
Just the Chinese have always been so great on this event. 15.533, a great score, which will help her recover from that low vault score.
And China rescue a medal out of this. The always dangerous balance beam is the next destination. Back in Nanning, China. And the last time Nastia Liukin was in this country, It was in 2008 in Beijing. Who knew that she would soon join us in the booth to talk about the sport that she loves? But the people in China didn't forget you on this trip back, did they?
Yeah, it was very special to be back. My first time back in China, and just being in the arena, the cheers, the chants, the Chinese flags that filled that arena were very similar to what it felt like 6 years ago.
Here are the standings at the halfway point here. Simone Biles has the lead, almost 0.3 of a point. And Kyla Ross has slipped out of the medal slot right now. She's on the outside with China's Yao Jinan moving into the third position. Kyla Ross in fifth. Okay, the balance beam and Simone Biles.
And she is great on this event. We keep talking about how powerful she is on vault and floor, but she actually qualified first into the balance beam individual finals.
That spinorama is great.
Yeah, it's actually very difficult as well. She is great, but you got to stay on the apparatus. There's no question. It's been a little bit shaky on this tumbling run right here. Just a little bit off, but
missing that connection, which will, well, she just does seem a little bit off. You have to wonder if she's getting a little bit nervous knowing that she's at the top halfway through.
well, really, I think she probably believes that if she can just get through this routine and pull off this super hard dismount, which she does, it's going to be hard for anybody to catch her. Remember, she's got what I think is her best event as you look at
Her sister and her mom and dad next to them. And this combination, 3 elements in a row, actually gives her an extra 10th of bonus.
But there are a few little, quirky spots in the routine, but this was not at all. Just a gigantic dismount.
And now over on floor, Shang Chun-song. So used to China just churning out gymnast after gymnast after young gymnast after really young gymnast.
And she is a little out.
We're going to see in a few minutes Kyla Ross on the balance beam, and the vision of what Kyla is and what this gymnast is, to me it's like they should be in different leagues.
And this is actually not her first World Championship. She competed in Antwerp in 2013. She's really good. But there are disadvantages to, being this small and not having the mass that some of the other gymnasts have. For example, on vaulting, she just can't compress the board, so she does a very easy vault.
To me, just not as impressive as some of the other gymnasts, especially on this event, but she was able to stay on her feet, I guess, which is great for her.
Okay, on the balance beam, Simone Biles of 14.766. That will keep her in first place.
But that could have been a lot better for Simone. She, as Nastia mentioned, she gave up a bunch of different connections there, was a little bit clunky.
How's Vanessa Ferrari on the beam?
She's good. I think she probably is a little bit stronger on some of the other events, but has been consistent so far in China.
And, she kind of disappeared from the world of gymnastics at the top level, and as she got older, she just she got better and better. She was criticized when she was a little one, when she won that world title in 2006, as not having enough artistry, and she kind of embraced that and has really transformed her gymnastics. He was the anchor of the Italian team. Dismount, she does a round-off double pike. Nicely done. Another solid routine from Vanessa Ferrari.
23-year-old hanging around with the teenagers.
You see the Olympic rings tattoo on the back of her neck.
Chun Song of 14.166.
You saw that bar score, though. She was in the 12s.
And Vanessa Ferrari still in the medal story. Trying to get back in the medal game is Kyla Ross. Simone Biles, her American teammate, still in the lead. Still in the third rotation in the women's all-around final in Nanning, China. Al Troutwig, Nastia Lukin, Tim Daggett, and right now, Kyla Ross. And this is where she can make up some ground, right, Nastia?
She really can, you know, and this is the event. We just talked about her being great on the uneven bars, but she is just stunning to watch on the balance beam.
Has a lot of maturity. You know, so many gymnasts have to rush through.
But with every finish and every step or dance move, she just does it so well and beautifully.
You know, one of the major reasons Kyla was a part of the 2012 Olympic effort for the USA was because she is so stable on the balance beam, and she delivered in that team final and was a major part in why the USA was so dominant a couple years ago in London. Now this is a great routine.
Just the dismount left, a double tuck. And that was great. You know, it's one of those events that everybody just really hopes to get through and stay on the beam, but she did that and more. She was great on that routine.
And now our first look in these World Championships at Ellie Black from Halifax, Nova Scotia.
And I'll tell you, she has been doing a tremendous job at these championships. Up until this point, the highest finisher in an all-around was Victoria Moores from Canada in the 10th spot in the 2013 Worlds, and she's flirting right in that general area. Very difficult vault, but touches the ground, so that's going to cost her a little bit. Could have been a very big number for her, but even with that, a great job for this young lady.
So let's see, how did Kyla Ross do? Very well, 14.433. At this moment, she is in second place, behind Simone Biles. And back to Ellie Black, she gets a 13.9. And that's going to knock her down a little bit.
Let's see if Yao Jinan can keep it going. She was phenomenal on her last event, the uneven bars, and she's capable of being that good and maybe even a little more right here. This is great. She really tumbles on this. Doesn't jump, but rebounds. Fantastic.
Beautiful turn. Everything they do, they're not only great at the tumbling on the beam, but they are phenomenal on their leaps, connections, their pirouettes. Their dance is beautiful. And this event in the uneven bars is where they really need to do very well, because they don't do as well on the vault and the floor exercise.
Little bit under on that, but another strong routine. Watched them in training prior to the event starting, and look at those toes touching her head. That's how it's supposed to be done. The coaches were brutal on them. The slightest arm check or little bit of form on anything. Watch another one right here. Super difficult. You saw her head was tilted back. That makes it so hard. You lose sight of the beam.
Ooh, almost. .566, nicely done. And she is in a medal spot at the moment. And now back to Larissa Yordaki from Romania.
Larissa is really great on this event. She's actually often compared to the great Romanian gymnast Nadia Comăneci. And she said, although I'm flattered to be compared to her, I'm Larissa and I want to be myself.
Very nicely done. Back handspring into a backflip with a full twist. Another big pass right here. She's actually capable of doing a routine with two flipping elements with a full twist, and that very, very determined, difficult double turn. Kind of an auspicious start to her gymnastics career. She was at a local gym and coach invited her in. Mom said no. Larissa stayed. At the end of the workout, she did not want to leave. Beautiful triple twist at the end, and that was really fantastic right there. She's always been capable of being in the hunt for getting on that podium, but somehow has, in the major events, has not delivered in the all-around. But today, wow, she's been great.
Huge full twisting, back tuck. And that element is very difficult, especially to start your routine off of that. And she does it so well. You see her toes really gripping onto that balance beam. And this dismount, a round off back handspring, triple twist, and this is something you would see somebody typically do on the floor exercise.
And that's about as well as I've ever seen anybody do that dismount. Very, very hard. Had great position.
It's very difficult to get that triple twist all the way around and not have it devalued into a 2.5, and I am sure she did get credit for the triple.
Last performance of this rotation for Aliyah Mustafina. She has been right there in the picture. She has not been able to catch Simone Biles, but she has been in second place. Yordaki gets a 15.1. That puts her in medal contention heading into the final rotation.
Yeah, she's actually just I think a few tenths behind Simone Biles, which is shocking because nobody's been able to do that.
Nobody's really been able to be even close to Simone. Mustafina was the world all-around champion in 2010.
Suffered a devastating injury a little bit after that, torn ACL. Battled back from that. And as I mentioned earlier, has been dealing with really an ankle that just doesn't respond.
You know, as much as she would love an all-around medal, she kind of did say her goal was to help the team. And she has been, that's going to be a big deduction.
You know, Team Russia was really decimated by injury, as a lot of the programs throughout the world were. Victoria Komova still not ready. Ksenia Athanaseva still injured, and Paseka were all in contention to make this Russian team, all of them not healthy enough to make the trip to China. Wow, great landing. That'll erase some of the memory, but this was actually quite nice. A standing Arabian, little bit of a balance check there. But right here, look at the hips. The break in the angle right there, that's a sizable deduction.
Switch half, which she does very well. And this is what really sealed that routine. The double back, with of course a stick.
She uses a lot of tape.
Yeah, she does.
14.341. She is just on the outside of the medal picture. We're heading to the final rotation, and that's floor exercise for Simone Biles and Kyla Ross, and for both of them, that is often a very good thing. Sunday night is football night. NBC Sports will be in Philadelphia for America's Game of the Week. Eli Manning and the Giants take on LaShawn McCoy and the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Bob Costas and Dan Patrick host Football Night in America. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, only on NBC. There are the standings. It's a very slim 0.13 of a point lead for Simone Biles, trying to go back-to-back on the World Championship stage. And Kyla Ross would love now to have a finish that was like last year's World Championships when she won the silver medal. What are you thinking, Tim, as you look at the standings?
Well, actually, I thought that Simone had a bigger lead, about 0.3, and as you just mentioned, it's even smaller than that. You know, really, it is still Simone Biles to win or lose, though, at this point, because she's so great on floor. Janan has just been fantastic here today. She started a little rough on vault, but did about as good as she could do.
And Mustafina is also great on this event, but not nearly as good as Simone. So, you know, my opinion, she won't be able to pass her, but she can definitely vie for a silver medal.
It's fantastic to live in Italy and be Italian and have the last name Ferrari.
Yeah. She's actually got the speed and power of one. At her age, this routine is jam-packed with high-flying difficulty. Trademark skill for Vanessa. A standing back flip out of that full twisting double. She likes to try to rebound a little more than that, but still very interesting.
Well, you know, that was a great routine. Probably not quite enough for a medal at this year's World Championships, but she really did have a great day, and she has just gotten so much better, in my opinion, in the last year.
Without a doubt. Double pike and a great landing to finish. Very intricate tumbling run. This is a double twisting, double somersault. We're going to see that from both Yordaki and Biles.
14.7. That puts her in first right now. There's plenty more gymnastics coming up. And here's Kyla Ross. Nastia, what do you think? I mean, she's got the World Championship gold already here at this event. She's got an Olympic gold at the Olympics. Does it take the pressure off a little bit when it comes to a day like this for her?
Well, you know, not necessarily, because she has had the gold medals in the team competition, but she has never really won a big international competition like the World Championships or Olympic Games in the individual all around.
Well, if you ever think that Kyla Ross is going to succumb to pressure, then you don't know Kyla Ross, because she just always seems to find a way to get the job done. It truly is a battle, though, for someone that has been to an Olympics to come back and to be her height. It is a big challenge, but thus far, she's been able to handle it. Tremendous.
You know, she really did have a great day. She was very consistent throughout the day. A little bit of a lower score than we'll see from Simone Biles most likely, but she did great. She hit every single routine, and you know, now she's just crossing her fingers. She might be able to make it onto that podium.
All right, we're playing King of the Hill right now. Ferrari was the first one to the hill, and Kyla just knocked her down. So it's Kyla Ross and Ferrari, now Yao Jinan.
And she needs a 13.6 to surpass Kyla for that top spot as of right now.
Which is possible, but like I said earlier, on both vaulting and floor, everything has just looked really hard for her in Nanning. It was great on the uneven bars, elegant on balance beam, but here she needs to show a little bit more power.
Beautiful turn, and you know, we started noticing that some of the gymnasts were wearing socks, which to me is actually very interesting. I don't know how they don't slip on their tumbling, but it helps with all the pirouetting skills.
Oh. Almost touched her knees.
Tries to cover it up, but I don't think
that's going to fool too many people.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking world championship medal worthy?
No, not. That was just, there were too many big errors in that routine, and that last one right there, really, it was a full point deduction if they get it right, because you put your hands down, show support, it's a point off.
And she really did try to cover it up by doing a cartwheel out of it, but
Really low, you see that step forward, and she was going to put her hands down, and so.
Now let's see how the judges got it. Yeah, they saw it too, 12.833. So when we come back, the conclusion of the women's all-around and all the big hitters, Yordaki, Mustafina, Simone Biles, still to come. The women's all-around world championships in Nanning, China come down to the next 3 routines. In the mix, all the heritage that comes with being a Romanian female gymnast, Larissa Yordaki. She needs a 13.2.
Which is very doable. That would put her in first. Big tumbling run. Oh, boy. One foot was definitely out. That would be a 1/10 of a point. That other foot was precariously close. If both are out, it's 3/10 of a point. Well, that was a hard routine. Wow. And so often we've seen Larissa not be able to put 4 together. She did today. That will be plenty to move her into that first position, but we still, as you see there, have Mustafina and Simone to go. Very difficult first tumbling run, double twisting, double somersault.
in this round off back handspring, triple twist, a little bit of the crossed feet, but she definitely gets it counted as a triple twist.
And she loves what she's seeing.
Guaranteed a medal for Larissa Yordaki.
First place for now, but she's done the math, and quickly, there are only 2 more women to go. She's going to leave Nanning, China with a medal. So it all comes down now to Aliyah Mustafina and Simone Biles.
And Mustafina needs a 15.2 to be ahead of Yordaki.
Which that is a very big number on floor exercise.
In the qualifying round, she only got a 14.5, so it's going to be very difficult.
And it will definitely not happen.
Nastia, can you compare her compared to what she was in London?
You know, not quite. Not right at this moment. I think she was definitely a little bit stronger, more precise, more consistent.
Well, she sat down, and she sat down early, and that takes care of that.
And you know, she had such great height and even rotation in this skill. It was almost like she had it and she was trying to stick it.
Now you got to remember, this is the third full all-around she's competing in. Did all 4 in qualifying, all 4 in the team finals. And just maybe was a little bit, and it wasn't just that she was competing in the team final. She had Russia completely on her back for both of those competitions. Exhausting.
13.4 and change. She knows what that means. Yordaki's loving it.
She is guaranteed at least a silver medal.
And you know, I'm happy for her because she's been capable of being in that category for a long time, but just hasn't been able to put 4 together.
Kyla Ross is guaranteed a medal as well for the United States.
And Simone Biles needs a 14.6, which is almost a walk in the park for her. She just needs to stay on her feet and stay in bounds.
This is called a Biles, named after her. Oh.
Good night, Nanning.
Well, without a doubt, Simone Biles is the defending back-to-back world all-around champion.
And everybody knows it in the arena. Larissa knows it, Kyla knows it. It was a lot closer than most people would have thought.
You winked like 5 times. I was laughing so hard. Were you standing over here? Yeah, she didn't get you.
An exhausting exercise.
We'll wait for it to be official, but it's all but official. First American woman since Shannon Miller to go back-to-back in a World Championships.
Just can't compare. Nobody else even comes close. When you talk about power, look at the second flip is still going up higher.
Finishing with a full twisting double back. She does that better at the end of her routine than a lot of gymnasts do at the beginning.
Yes, sir. 15.066. Kyla gets the bronze. Yordaki the silver. It's one of the hardest things to think about, winning a world championship and then to think about doing it again.
Yeah.
In a sport that comes down to tenths and hundredths.
Absolutely. Great performance today from Larissa Yordaki. Tremendous athlete. bringing a little bit of pride back to that Romanian team.
Here you see Marta Karoli, the head coach of the U.S. team.
And I think at this point, 2 years out, you can really get excited about the possibilities for USA Gymnastics in Rio.
Absolutely.
Biles wins it by half a point, then Yordaki and Ross. Here is Simone Biles about going back-to-back.
It actually blows my mind. Like, if I think about it right now, I'm just like, what? It's just like, I don't know. It's just really weird, but it's really cool. It was just amazing to go out there and compete with your best friend and just have so much fun.
She's got that American teenage kind of sound. Back-to-back is as good as it gets. Coming up next, the men's all-around final. Tomorrow and Tuesday, The Voice. Who will steal the spotlight? The Voice is all new tomorrow and Tuesday, followed by The Blacklist here on NBC. In Nanning, the women's all-around concluded, and at the medal presentation, something sort of funny and weird happened. There was a bee on Simone Biles' bouquet, and she doesn't look like she is into bees at all, and it just kept following her around. And she just said, I'm going to get rid of the target of the bee. Biles, Yordaki, and Kyla Ross. And I think eventually order was restored, guys. And the bee did buzz off. Now it's time for the men's all-around final. Kohei Uchimura chasing number 5. That's right, 4 world championships in a row. So clearly he is the king. Now we're going to pick up this competition after 3 rotations. And Tim, what got your attention in the first 3 rotations?
Well, obviously, look at the top. Kohei Uchimura going for his 5th, as you said, but you also don't see an American flag right there. Was not as perfect as it needed to be for Team USA thus far. You see the big hop on that landing.
You know, and Donnell Wittenberg, this is his first world championship, so he is so excited to be here. He told us all this week in China. And Sam Mikulak missed out on the opportunity to get a medal at the last year's World All-Around Finals, and he is really hoping to do that this year.
This was actually a very nice routine for Sam Mikulak, but some other small little hops like that. As I mentioned, you didn't see his name atop the leaderboard, but this, Max Whitlock from GBR Great Britain. He has struggled on horse, his best event, but not today. He has looked fantastic.
He actually did not qualify into the all-around finals originally, but teammate Niall Wilson got injured, so he was the replacement.
And if you want to see the gold standard in gymnastics, just watch Kohei Uchimura.
There's only one word that I can come up with. You're going to see this exercise. It's ridiculous how perfect it is. These landings are so hard to pull off in every single one of them.
And he has proved to be the best in the world 4 times already, but I would have to say he might be the greatest male gymnast of all time. Would you agree, Tim?
I would, but actually it's really not 4. You know, everybody talks about the World Championships. He happened to win an Olympic gold medal right in the middle of that as well, so he can win 5 worlds in a row, but really it's the last 6 times it was contested, or the last 5 he's already got. And look at this, perfect form, perfect landing. Wow.
And that is how he built his lead. And now we're back to the competition in the 4th rotation. And we will begin with a veteran. We saw him in London, David Belyavsky of Russia.
This is a great event for David. Super difficult. He'll do a Sukahara with a double back in the pike position. Nice vault. Little bit too much of a step back on the landing. Held onto his pike a little bit too long.
Tim, we are not seeing very many stuck landings. Theory?
Well, actually, on this, I can't imagine ever trying to stick it. You see that foot, it slips outside that line, too. That is just so difficult.
15.033. He's the early leader, but Uchimura can easily change that. Look, he only needs a 14.1 to be the leader.
In the team finals, he did this vault better than I'd ever seen him do. 2.5 twists with a laid out front at the end right here. Oh! Man, he is outrageous today. Wow.
I would think it has to be pretty intimidating to be in that same rotation with him when he is just so extraordinary on every single event.
Huge power. And for Kohei tonight, I'm sure it is a lot about redemption. Remember, the Chinese overtook the Japanese by 1/10 of a point in the team competition.
15.633. That is an awesome score, and that's the right reaction for it. We'll continue in the fourth rotation at the World Gymnastics Championships. The World Gymnastics Championships are a very big deal, but it's the Olympics and everything else. And imagine then the desire for Sergio Sasaki to be part of a Brazilian effort in Rio at the Olympics in 2 years. Can he last? Can he hang on? Can he avoid the big injury?
Yeah, I think he can do all of that, and he can contend. He does some of the most difficult gymnastics in the world, as you'll see in just a few moments right here. Super hard combination. And now we'll do another high-flying release right here. Great. Brazil was overwhelmed with enthusiasm after the team finals. They placed 6th, which was their best finish by far. So impressed with this young man. He is really capable of so much gymnastically. He just has to clean up a little bit, but each time I see him, he's a bit better, and he does that really well.
Well, if he does that in 2 years, they're going to have to hold up the roof.
Yes, absolutely. Beautiful double laid out with 2 twists, and just bam.
And Sasaki gets a 15.066 right now with the leaders to come. He's in the 3rd spot. Now over across the floor on parallel bars is Oleg Vernayev of Ukraine.
And you know, like I said with Larissa Yordaki on the women's all-around side, she just couldn't all put together the perfect meet. And that's been the same thing for Vernayev. Certainly capable, has some of the hardest gymnastics in the world, but always seems to find a place. But this is so difficult where he doesn't perform well. So far today, he's been great. Release skill, very nicely done. Big dismount, double front with a half and a stuck landing.
And now Donnell Whitberg of the United States.
And this is a place where he can really gain some ground. On vaulting, he's one of the most powerful athletes. I think he's the most powerful athlete I've ever seen. And he does a super hard vault. It's 3 revolutions, 3 flips and a half twist. Oh. And that just was not nearly what he's capable of doing.
And you know, we've watched him all year at the qualifying events, the national championships, then here in China. And I don't think we have ever seen him fall on this vault.
And with that right there, that is going to eliminate medal opportunities for Team USA.
Vernayev, meanwhile, oh my goodness. That's the first 16 we've seen.
That is as big as it gets right here.
16.033. Wow. Now, Max Whitlock, Mr. Second Chance. Failed in qualifying. Injury gets him in.
And he placed 4th all around last year at the World Championships. So, you know, I always say 4th place is the worst when you're so close to getting a medal.
This is not one of Max's strongest events. We saw earlier that highlight of him on pommel horse. He's world class there. But the all-around is really about shining where you're great and not making mistakes where you're maybe not so dominant, and he has been fitting that bill precisely today. Oh! And don't give away a 10th. Beautiful.
How on earth did he not qualify?
Yeah, he was close. He really struggled on horse and wasn't as great as he needed to be everywhere else.
And the great male gymnasts of the world are moving on to the next rotation. It's the men's all-around in Nanning, China. Olympic medalists Gracie Gold and Jason Brown lead Team USA at the ISU Grand Prix of Figure Skating Hilton Honors Skate America, October 26th on NBC. Here's where we stand. In the 4th rotation complete, Kohei Uchimura has a lead of over half a point, and Max Whitlock of Great Britain is in medal contention. Now again, he did not qualify, did not finish in the top 24. But an injury to a teammate allowed him an exemption in. And you talk about taking full advantage of this second chance. Kohei Uchimura has the lead, and he's just cool at everything he does, including preparing the parallel bars, which he'll mount soon.
The same thing happened for Japan. You know, you're only allowed 2 gymnasts from your country to advance into the finals. Kato, who was 2nd in the world last year, didn't make it in because Tanaka had a better score, and of course Uchimura did as well. For a guy that's known for being perfect. Oh, and that's really that little flex of his arms, and again right there. And they were little, right? That's about the worst thing he's done all day long. A little bit short on that handstand. Every athlete in the meet is probably watching this guy, and they were all saying, yeah, that wasn't perfect. I guess maybe he is human. I'm still not quite sure. A hop on the landing. It's not his best. And that's his mom. And believe it or not, at the Japanese championships this year in the open division, she competed.
This year?
This year.
So where are the mistakes?
Well, really none right there. Very nicely done. This is beautiful in the air, but right there, the slide back. I'd only take a 10th for that. Unfortunately, around the world, the judges, they're usually taking 3 for even that small little hop right there.
15.2, still number 1, Kohei Uchimura of Japan. And now we go to, and I say the word veteran with a capital V, for Fabian Hambuchen of Germany.
Won the bronze medal at the 2013 World Championships in the all-around, but just didn't have his best performance in the qualifying competition this week.
Yeah, Germany really struggled. Also had a number of injuries from top athletes. Beautiful routine right here, though. Now watch this combination. This is ridiculously hard. Watch now. Oh, and doesn't do it. He's supposed to actually do a laid out front. And this is he's kind of throwing this routine together here, figuring out which way to go. He's great on high bar, a tremendous competitor, got a silver at the Olympics. To Epke Zonderland of Holland. That was a wild ride for him. Also about one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Dismount. He spots the ground, very good in the air. Hop back.
That'll put him in third, but there are a lot of the leaders still to come. 15.1. Hambuchen didn't seem terribly disappointed. Now back to Yusuke Tanaka. One more rotation to go after this.
From a gymnastics family. His older brother has been a mainstay on the Japanese team of late, and his sister also an Olympian in 2012. Gorgeous gymnastics. What I like so much is his rhythm is perfect. Even when he might be a little bit off, he's calm and he makes the adjustment without letting anybody else know. Oh, wow. Wow, that was really good. You know, he faltered in the team championships on this event, which really hurt Japan and inevitably was one of the reasons they didn't win the title. But that was fantastic.
Well, Nastia, a lot like you experienced when you were growing up. He's in a gym all the time with Kohei Uchimura. You have to figure that floats all boats, don't you?
Oh, definitely. And, you know, I think that for him to have Kohei Uchimura training right next to him, it's got to be a great deal of motivation to know what you're always trying to beat.
You trained with a girl named Carly Patterson, didn't you?
I sure did, and you know, she won the 2004 Olympic Games, so that was a great experience for me to know exactly what it takes to be the best in the world.
A very high score, over 15.8. Now it's back to Max Whitlock. Can he keep this sort of fairy tale alive?
And that's really what he wants to do here. This is also not his best event. He goes to floor, where he's very good on, though. He had the 14th highest score in the qualifying round, but as we said, only 2 gymnasts can move on to the all-around or an individual event final. Niles Wilson, the young athlete from Great Britain who has such a bright future. A wrist has been bothering him for the entire time in China. He withdrew. Max gets the call and so far has delivered. As I said, not his best event. Really does give some tenths away. Like this right here should finish in a dead handstand, and it's really not even that close.
No, I pushed it so far. Got 4, yeah.
Well, it keeps him in the top 3 for now, a 14.2 with one more rotation to come on the floor.
Team final.
Now Sergio Sasaki of Brazil. Wow, was he good earlier when we saw him.
And he's good here, too. This is very difficult. Oh, wow, that was great. That pass, he's the first one I've ever seen do that. Brazil on a major upswing with their gymnastics. They have the reigning Olympic and world champion on the still rings, Arthur Zanetti. Super hard. Oh, that's a shame. Every pass in this routine. Very difficult, a great exercise. Just that small little problem on that rollout. But look at this right here. Double pike and then rebounds into that front with a full. Down the side pass. This is crazy. A double twisting, double somersault.
We'll give you Sasaki's score. First, David Belyavsky of Russia.
Of course, Russia, once again, trying to recover from a very disappointing team finals. A little bit off there. David is a tremendous gymnast, has really been one of the anchors to the Russian team. They just made too many mistakes in the team final, most specifically on pommel horse and parallel bars on dismounts like that.
Well, that could make Belyavsky a player here heading to the final rotation. Sasaki gets a 14.966. Heading to the final rotation for the men's all-around world championship. Tim, handicap the medal contenders.
Well, if this guy grabs the bar, he's going to go 5 straight. Oleg Vinayev is in second place at this point. He goes to floor and has a jam-packed, difficult routine he'll have to survive. David Belyavsky ranked third at this point. He goes to an event where he's not that great, high bar. Max Whitlock, GBR, has had a tremendous day today. He goes to a strong one on the floor exercise.
No Americans are in play for the medals, and we'll start things off on the high bar with Yusuke Tanaka.
Remember that parallel bar routine just a few minutes ago was fantastic.
And you get the feeling that Uchimura affects everything, including the way the guys wear their hair.
Yeah. Last year, Japan went 1-2 in the all-around with Uchimura winning and Kato in second. He didn't advance because Yusuke had a higher score in the qualifying. Remember, only 2 per country can compete in the all-around finals. Big release right here. Great. Got another one coming. Oh, really well done. I would say that the Japanese have the best combination of super difficulty and tremendous execution on this event. Gamba, go for it in Japanese. And he did, wow. Wow, don't take a step there, buddy.
What a finish to his day.
Yeah, those last two events were just spectacular. Big release right there, done so well. He does take a small hop on this, just a 1/10 of a point, I would say.
He says okay to a 15.5, which puts him in the top spot for now. We're getting down to the final few performers. Here's Max Whitlock.
Beautiful. Oh, that was well done. Now watch this right here. Gonna go up to the handstand, back down. Now watch, oh, tremendous. It's called an air flare. So clean on this event. Tell you what, up until this point, Max has not looked like the gymnast that he's capable of in the qualifying and in the team event. Was not at his best. Today, however, a different story. And that's got to be good enough for a medal, without a doubt.
He may not think he's got a medal, but he thinks he made the most out of this opportunity and this day.
Absolutely, he's got a medal. There's no question in my mind. You stick like that on all of these different tumbling runs.
And the last time Great Britain won a medal in the World Championships all-around finals was in 2009. Dan Keatings won the silver medal.
If you ask Max after the qualifying, so what are you doing during the all-around? He would have said, watching.
And now he finds himself in first position.
Yes, he does, with a 15.466. That is a fantastic way to end your day. And we go to David Belyavsky on the high bar.
And really, he just wants to survive this event. I said earlier, when you're an all-around gymnast, unless you're Koei Uchimura, you've got some bright spots, and then you've got some areas that you're not as great on. David's already been to a bunch of those events where he shines. High bar, he just wants to survive. Another release right here. He's a clean gymnast, which helps him tremendously. Doesn't have those major releases that we've seen from some of the Japanese and Sasaki. That was a little bit funky right there. That could be really bad for him. This is cool. But watch this. Let's see where he finishes, and he does it again. It is a huge deduction to come out and not finish in a handstand on that. And I said he needed to survive, and he had two very blatant errors in that exercise, and that could be haunting for him.
So you think Max Whitlock is intact still?
Absolutely. He should not be able to pass Max with this routine right here.
He actually needs better than a 15.1 to pass Max.
which he's not going to get that. No, not even close. Or he shouldn't anyways.
Well, let's see what the number is. It is a 14.4. It will place him third. So Max Whitlock will still have the top spot. So Oleg Vernayev can knock him down to silver. And then Uchimura. So Max Whitlock is going to come out of these World Championships with a medal.
A well-deserved one.
Okay, so how's this routine we're about to see?
It's really hard.
You say that all the time.
No, this is really hard. You know, he does some of the most difficult gymnastics in the world. He, of course, was part of that Ukrainian team that was denied a medal in 2012 when the Japanese protested Uchimura's score. They were medalists when the competition was over, and then it got taken away. Big step there, 3/10 step and a 10th for going out of bounds. They finished in 4th position, and that was not a good landing either. That showed a lot of lack of control. Every time you see him take a little hop or a little shuffle, that is pen to paper, and it gets a little more challenging to stay in the medals. Pen to paper writing those deductions. That one should incur none.
Tim, we often say all the judges do is deduct, they don't add, but would you like to see a situation where a gymnast who makes mistakes adds on things random to the rest to try to get the points back?
Well, some try to do that. I'll tell you that, as I said, very difficult routine, but he had some question marks.
Can Uchimura complete the drive for 5 as the World Gymnastics Championships are brought to you by Hilton? Be a weekender. By AT&T, mobilizing your world. And by Easy Breezy Beautiful CoverGirl. We're back, and respectful handshakes from all these men who've competed through the team and the all-around. What went wrong here for Vernayev? Was he tired?
Well, you know, I just think that he had a little bit of shuffling around, and this one, that's a big step backwards and out of bounds. It just leaves a sour taste in the judge's mouth, and, you know, it can increase deductions. That, however, was flawless. He did a great job today, but I think it's going to be close for him.
So he's going to be in the 3rd spot with a score of 14.833, but that's all for now. He could be knocked down to the dreadful 4th spot easily if Kohei Uchimura simply is Kohei Uchimura. And he will be on the high bar where I think dazzling is the right word.
Dazzling, spectacular, phenomenal. You can just keep on going. He has the difficulty, but he also executes at such a high level. He makes it look easy. Got to grab the bar on 2 major releases. That's the first one. Another one right here. Awesome. Remember, he's struggling, I'm sure, with China finishing ahead by a 10th of a point. He anchored that Japanese team. We're talking about 5 world championships in a row, but for me, it's 6 in a row because he won the Olympic Games, and he's going to win here too. Well, if there was question before, And if you really know about gymnastics, there shouldn't be question now. Right there, that guy's the greatest that ever lived. And this is really bad news right here for a lot of other people. Kohei says he's going to do gymnastics through 2020.
When the Olympic Games are in Tokyo. And Tanaka's going to get a medal too. There it is, the official confirmation. 5 world championships in a row for Kohei Uchimura of Japan. But what about Max Whitlock of Great Britain? He fails to qualify and then is suddenly qualified because of injury, and he's going home to Great Britain with a world championship medal.
Just 4 years ago, when Max met Uchimura for the first time, he said he was so starstruck, and obviously now he is his motivation and inspires him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you come second to your idol.
And the bronze medal for Yosuke Tanaka. Uchimura rubbing off in a winning type of way, and Vernayev will, as you said, Nasty, is in that worst 4th spot.
It's the worst. I've been there before in a major event, and it is just heart-wrenching.
Tim Daggett says he's the greatest gymnast he has ever seen, and he just goes out and reproves it and reproves it and reproves it again.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes men's individual gold.
Here are the final results. It is amazing to think that you can come back when everyone knows that you're the best in the world and win 5 times. But that is the story of Japan's Kohei Uchimura. The next time the world comes together to prove themselves in the sport of gymnastics will be next year in Glasgow, Scotland, and then it will only be 1 year away from Rio. Coming up next, except on the West Coast, it's your local news. Then Sunday night is football night. In Philadelphia, America's Game of the Week as Eli Manning and the Giants take on LaShawn McCoy and the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football. Bob Costas and Dan Patrick host Football Night in America. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, only on NBC. For Tim Daggett and Nastia Lukin, I'm Al Troutwig. You've been watching the World Gymnastics Championships on NBC.